Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Chrissy, and I would like to welcome you to the Doylestown Bookshop's virtual event series. We are thrilled to welcome Claire Douglas as she discusses her new book, Then She Vanishes, a twisty, compulsive thriller full of jolting shocks and startling secrets involving two sisters, a disappearance, a double murder, and a reporter determined to find the truth, with internationally best-selling author Gilly Macmillan. Our guests will be in conversation for about 30 minutes. After that, they will take questions from you, the viewers. If you would like to submit a question, please click on Ask a Question on your screen and enter your question there. If you're watching from a phone or tablet, click the icon with the question mark to submit your questions. If you would like to purchase the book from the Doylestown or Lahaska bookshops, click the button on your screen that says Buy the Book. We have convenient curbside pickup at both of our stores and ship worldwide. Now, a little bit about our guests. Claire Douglas has worked as a journalist for 15 years, writing features for women's magazines and newspapers, but she's dreamed of being a novelist since the age of 7. She finally got her wish after winning Marie Claire's debut novel award for her first book, The Sisters, which became a bestseller. Gilly Macmillan is the internationally best-selling author of What She Knew, The Perfect Girl, Odd Child Out, I Know You Know, The Nanny, and To Tell You the Truth. Gilly's books have appeared on the New York Times, the Sunday Times, Globe and Mail, and Der Spiegel bestseller lists and have been translated into over 20 languages. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Very happy to have you. I'm looking
Hello,
forward to your conversation, and I'll be back for the Q&A.
Thank you.
Hi, Gilly.
Hi, Claire.
Hi.
I at this stage of an interview say it's lovely to meet you, but full disclosure is that Claire and I are friends and we live very close to each other here in the UK, and we meet up fairly often and kind of not always complain, but gossip and what about how we're getting. So it's very, very nice to be having a conversation here with the Doylestown Bookshop, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Claire and I have known each other for a few years. Our debut novels were published in the summer of 2015, and that's how we got to know one another. Mine was What She Knew, and Claire's, yours was Sisters.
Yeah.
And actually, my questions kind of got answered in the intro, but I wanted to dig into that a little bit. So one thing is that our debut novels were published later in life for both of us. We'd had other careers and done other things. So had you really had a burning impulse to write since you were 7? You know, was that something you tried to do before you wrote Sisters? And how did that develop as the years went by? And what made you really go for it in the end and write the novel?
Yeah, so I think since I was a kid, I used to sit in my bedroom writing stories, and I really wanted to be an author. I liked reading Enid Blyton and all these sort of books. And then I became a journalist because I thought that was a good way of writing for a living. I tried to write books in my own time, but they weren't very good, to be honest. And I did send them off to agents and things like that, but they never got anywhere. And then it was when I was 39. So I was thinking, oh, is this ever going to happen? I tried, I think 4 or 5 times, novels, and then I had a few short stories published, but I always wanted to write a novel. So then I saw this competition. It's actually a friend of mine that sent it to me and said, why don't you go for this? And I was like, oh, I'll go for it. But, didn't think in a million years that it would ever happen. So I just sent off I just started writing this book, which was The Sisters. I wasn't quite sure where it was going. So I just thought, I'll just send that because I've just started writing that. And so I sent that off, and that's how. And then when I won that, that's how I got into. So it was a little bit of luck, I think, just the right story at the right time.
I guess it had to be a good read too to win the competition, but which is quite an amazing story, Claire. And you set out to write a thriller. Was that always where your interest lay? Because The Sisters is a thriller like Vanishes, and it's absolutely gripping. And so, was that what you were trying to do, or did the book sort of?
Yeah, well, I don't think I really knew. I think it was like a dark, I really liked. There was an author called Emily Barr who wrote sort of dark women's fiction around the sort of early 2000s, late 90s, and I I like sort of a bit like that. I thought it was going down that, but it wasn't really a thriller to start with. And then it just sort of became a thriller as I started writing it. I thought, no, actually, this is a thriller. But, well, it was like a sort of soft thriller, I think. I think my books have got darker.
Yeah.
But I think it was like I wasn't quite sure, like, you know. Is that the same for you? I was a bit like, did you want to write thrillers? Because I wasn't quite sure. I think I wanted to write rom-coms to start with, like, and then
I wanted to write historical fiction.
I love historical fiction. Yeah.
I began to research a book set in France. I think it was 18th century. But what I realized really quickly is that it was going to take me many years to research it. And that was why I even started writing, and I didn't know how to write a book.
Yeah.
So I kind of pivoted, and I thought, well, I'm going to write the kind of book that I love to read, like on a plane, or I'm going to try and write a thriller, because I'd also just read No Time for Goodbye by Linwood Barnes.
Oh yes, yeah.
Really inspired me. So Gone.
Yeah.
So that gave me a push in that direction, and I haven't regretted that, because I think it's fun to write.
Yeah.
So do you read it? Do you read widely, or do you have a diet of?
I do read widely, and actually,
and what happens?
Well, I read quite a lot because I love historical fiction as well, and I love I love Eve Chase, and I'm reading weirdly a Sarah Waters book at the moment, called Tip in the Velvet. Have you ever read that? I love Sarah Waters, and like it's sort of I just love her writing. So it's obviously that's like a historical fiction. It's all about like the sort of like the stage and these girls on stage. It's really good, but it's nothing like my books at all. I think I quite like I do read thrillers as well, but it's quite nice, isn't it? Especially when you're writing your own thriller, to read things that aren't thrillers, because it's like to have a change.
I think it's important for thrillers to kind of know what's happening in the market and know what's being written. I think it's also important to read around it. For me, I think it makes me a better writer, because I'm just looking at one type of book. Makes sense. I'm trying to read a little bit more broadly.
I think so.
I wanted to talk about Then She Vanishes, which is your new novel, which came out in North America yesterday, 3rd of August. Available now, everybody. It's really, really good. It's complex, it's compulsive, and it gave me the chills when I was reading it. Can you tell people watching a little bit about it, Claire?
Yeah, so it's a thriller, and it's about right at the beginning, in the very first chapter, a woman walks into a home and kills 2 people. So it's like a double murder straight away. And then it's about a journalist who's covering the story for her local paper, and she realizes that the woman accused of this crime is someone she went to school with and was best friends with a long time ago. So she covers the story, but it's really difficult for her because she has preconceived feelings about this girl. This girl was really quiet and lovely at school, and she can't understand how somebody so timid could do something so horrific. But there's also like a secret that she's got as well that she shares with Heather from the past. So there's lots of secrets and lies.
Lots of twists and turns and lots of things to discover. You've constructed the book really cleverly. The book you cut between timelines and past and present through different viewpoints. And I wanted to ask why you decided to construct it that way, and why you chose the narrators you chose to tell us the story. It works very, very, very well.
Oh, thank you. I think because the book I was writing before that was Do Not Disturb, and that was all just from one person's point of view. And that's the only time I've ever done that, with just writing from one character's point of view. And I just thought I think for my own, as I'm writing it, to make it a bit more exciting for me as a writer as well, I wanted to mix it up. So I wanted it to be from Jess's point of view, who's the journalist, but also from Margot, who is the mother of Heather, the girl who commits the crime at the beginning, because Heather's in a coma. So Margot and Jess have this sort of like almost like a mother and daughter sort of friendship. So I really enjoyed writing it, but I also enjoyed writing the little snippets of Jess's. She's a reporter, so she's got snippets of the story that as she's like working on it, and I wanted to put that in as well. and also just to sort of show like how journalists sometimes can twist things, or how things can be perceived by the press that isn't actually the real story. So that was the reason I did that with the press cuttings.
It's great. And I think it's interesting what you say about wanting to challenge yourself, because I think, I know when I start a new book, I'm always looking for a little of something I've done before or haven't done for a while, to keep me kind of engaged with the process of writing. And do you try and do that with all your books? Do you have? Yeah, I do too.
I think because I noticed that with your especially with Burnt Paper Sky, what's it called in America? It's what she knew in America. So that is that you've done that with that, haven't you? And I just think I just love that. I love reading books like that are all sort of, you know, mixed up. I just think it's exciting. It's exciting to read it. I think it's exciting to write like that as well. Just as a reader, it makes it more, I don't know, it just makes it more exciting, doesn't it? And I just think,
as long as it's sort of handleable, and I always worry.
Yeah, I think you did it really well.
It's too complex, and I make.
I think I actually used you as inspiration for that.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was, you've got themes of friendship in this novel, and also you talk about very intimate family relationships. You've got a mother and daughter relationship, and various bonds, and between other family members. And I think it's kind of, domestic suspense is a really popular genre right now, and I think it probably always has been in the history of thrillers. The real Gone Girl, everyone sort of started to love it again, and I think your thrillers are in that, you know, absolutely. So what's it like to write about families under pressure? You know, are you interested in how families can be kind of pushed to extremes, and, you know, can you talk a bit about that and why they're books?
I think I do quite like writing about dysfunctional families as well, like families that aren't just, you know, the norm. So like, you know, there's always some sort of like issue in the books. They've already got like underlying issues anyway as a family, and then obviously something will come along to sort of, you know, make or break them. I think I quite like that whole, you know, something happening to them, something that could happen to anyone, but actually just see how they deal with it, how it sort of shapes each family member. And so I quite, you know, that's quite interesting. I like reading that as well, reading books like that, where
I think it's like, I often think of it like, you take a fairly regular family, not, you know, there's no, but you take a fairly regular family, and then, you know, what the writer in a thriller does is kind of hit them with lightning, and you know, in terms of something, and you sort of get to see what, it's a little bit cruel in some way. It's very interesting watching.
It's interesting, to see how they
and one of the things I like is character relatable. So, you know, you put yourself in their position and ask yourself the question, what would I do if this happened to me? I think that's interesting when events within the realms of believability for regular.
I think your books are similar as well, aren't they? I think our books are quite similar, both like that. We both want, it's like something that could happen to normal people. It's not.
I wanted to ask you about setting, because you and I live very close geographically in the southwest of England. I live in the city of Bristol, and Claire lives in the beautiful city of Bath. And both of us set our books around here. And I wanted to ask you, you know, you do your locations really very well. And how important do you think location is to setting the tone in a thriller? Do you put a lot of thought into where you set your books?
Yeah, I do actually. To me, I think the setting is almost like another character. I think if it's, you know, I think if you can visualize it, I think it puts the reader straight away in that story. If I'm reading a book and I can't really visualize where it's set, I can't really get into the story in the same way. So I always think it's really important to have a good, you know, a setting that someone can relate to. And I think especially like around the southwest, there's so many different interesting places, isn't there? Like, but they could be relatable to anyone who lives anywhere, like a city, you know, or like a seaside, a sort of seaside. My favorite is a seaside out of season seaside. I do love because there's something about a sort of out of season seasidey place. I just find them really, they're a little bit sinister, but atmospheric, and But I do try to mix it up, because obviously I'd love to keep writing all my books in the seaside place, but I think, well, I have to sort of try and. But I quite like when Bristol's so, isn't it? It's such a colourful city. It's a great place to. In fact, I probably spend most of my books are set in Bristol rather than Bath, actually, which is considering I live in Bath. But I think because Bath, I think Bristol's more interesting to write about. Yeah, Bath's quite.
Yeah, Bristol's a bigger city, and but both great locations, I think, and and the seaside locations are fantastic. There's a certain darkness to a deserted seaside town, and
I just love. Yeah, I love it.
Talk a little about your process. Do you plot your books in advance, and how do you start a book? What's the thing that gets you going?
I think it's different, I think, in each one. So I think sometimes it is a character, and I suddenly have this character I want to write about. But most of the time, it's a little line. It's like it could be something that I've read in an article. Like I think with like Then She Vanishes, it was actually Then She Vanishes was more like, I thought as a journalist, what if I was covering a story where somebody had done something really violent and awful, and it was somebody that I used to know. That in my head, that was what sort of kickstarted that story. But another story I've written was about this, there's the Craigslist murders, where you put a advert in the Craigslist for victims, and that gave me an idea for a story. So it can be anything really, a little spark or something that makes me think, oh yeah, that's interesting. That would make a good. But I don't really plot. Do you? Yeah. I sort of have a beginning in my head, a middle, and then sort of end, and everything else is more.
I'm the same. I kick with something, and I usually kind of know sort of how I want it to end. But the middle is a big mystery, and I sort of figure it out as I go along. And I mean, writers famously divide into two camps, don't we? Like those of us who plot and those of us who don't. And I think that I plotted more effectively, because I think it means I would write a neater first draft. But having said that, I get some of my best ideas when I'm figuring out that first draft. I would use that process. So I think there are pros and cons to both ways of doing it. Do you have to edit heavily your first draft?
Yeah, the first draft. I really wish I could be. So I know a few writers who can just bash out a first draft in about 2 months and then go back and just make it better and better and better each time. But I can't. I really try to do that, but I can't. My first draft is awful, but I can't move on with it until I've sort of got it in quite not good shape, but it's got to be good enough that I can move on. If it's too messy, I can't carry on finishing it, because it bugs me that it's too messy at the beginning, if you know what I mean. So I've got to keep going back and think, right, that's got to be perfect in my head for that moment. And then in the second and third, like with the edits, it does change. But I can't finish a story until it's at least sort of decent. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I wish I could just get it down.
I know, I agree. How long does your draft typically take you?
I reckon 5-6 months, I think. And then, I mean, it's bitty as well, because sometimes, like with kids and holidays and stuff, I might do and then stop it for a bit and then go back to it. And so I'd say, it's good. I wish I could just get it done in a couple of months and that's it. But no, it takes, it probably takes about 6 months. And then I might just mess about with it a bit longer. So I reckon it takes probably about 9 months before I'd actually send it to my editor. But then it always comes back, with lots of, especially that first edit, it comes back with quite a lot of.
When we text each other and go,
that first edit is always, to me, the worst, isn't it? It's always like, oh god,
it's hard. It's always hard. There's always a lot to do.
Yeah.
Because you welcome another pair of eyes, but then your heart sinks because it's
I know. When you've got like all these pages of notes, and you're like, oh god. And you think, I can't think.
No, I know. I don't want to read it again, but then we do. We have to. Get a book.
Yeah.
It gets really tense and really claustrophobic, and you're playing with this cast of fascinating characters. So what do you think about what do you do to kind of create tension and claustrophobia in your books? You know, do you kind of think about that consciously, or does that come as you're writing?
I think,
I've got to, you know, what work for you?
Yeah, I think it does come as I'm writing. I think my books, because once you set the scene, everything, that's always the bit that sort of, you know, you need to set the scene, but and you want it sort of it to move on quicker. I think the having the sort of like atmospheric place does help, doesn't it? Like I think having that oppressive, dark, you know, either seaside town or, you know, Bristol city centre bit, I just think that makes it more oppressive. But yeah, I do think it sort of comes as you're getting more, I don't know if it's as I'm getting more urgent to finish the book and finish the draft, if it gets more like that, if you know what I mean. And I don't know about you, but I always listen to the same song the way through. Like there's a song by New Order. I think it's called Elijah, or I can never know how to pronounce it. And it's just music, really, but it's quite dramatic. And so I listen to that when I'm doing those dramatic bits. And that really helps.
Song over again.
Yes, over and over again.
Oh,
the same one. The same one. Yeah.
I'm thinking you better listen to it again after.
But hello, you've gone. Hello, Gilly. Gilly's disappeared. Hello.
Oh no.
Oh, no. I think Gilly's Wi-Fi.
Both. I can see Gilly both. Let me look
Oh, can you? Oh, can you?
Just a moment.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just It's
Can you see me, Claire?
Oh no, I can't. I can hear you. I don't know if anyone else can.
I'm here.
I don't know if everyone else better see you. I can't. Don't know if it's just me.
Can you see Gilly now?
No, can you? Is it just me? Is it if it's just
Did you say something again for me?
Hi, I'm here.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So, well,
should we just?
Claire, if you can hear me,
yeah,
you can keep talking. Shall we do that?
Yeah, should we just?
Yeah.
Do, yeah.
Weird.
You might pop back up in a minute. It's the weird Wi-Fi, isn't it? It's just we could just count talking.
So should we carry?
Oh, there you are.
Okay.
Hello,
so
there you are. Yeah.
We're back. So let me ask you, I wanted to ask you what your favorite part of the writing process is, and also what part of the writing process do you find the most challenging?
Oh, okay. I think for me, the most challenging is the first draft. I think, especially at the beginning, when you've got this story you really want to tell, and you're worried that you're not going to be able to tell it in the way you want it, that's in your head, if you know what I mean. You've got this vision in your head. You think, I want it to be like that, but it never is it? It always changes as you're writing it. But it always, to me, feels like I'm at the bottom of a mountain, and I'm just like, oh my God, I've got to get to the top of this mountain. It just seems like so that's the most daunting. But I think my favourite bit is the second edit. So the first edit, once it's all been, you know, when the editor's seen it and they send it back to you and you work on it, and then you send it back and you get it back again. When it's not quite such a bad edit, but there's still think you can really, you know, hone it and make it. That's my favourite bit. Yeah. So what about you?
Yeah. Probably. I'm probably the opposite. I love it at the beginning before I've wrecked it. I don't see the mountain.
Oh, really?
Possibility, and I have this great big idea about it. And it's only when I start to write it that I think, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do this justice. And then it all sort of fall in on me a little bit, and it becomes a little bit more of a battle, you know. Imagine, and I don't learn with each book. I never quite remember. It's like another baby. You know,
I know you do, and don't you sometimes think when I'm writing another book, I almost think, oh God, how did I manage to write another book? I can't. I feel like I forgot how to do everything. It's like starting again.
I find that. I mean, actually, I find we talk about this a lot because we're always writing the books at the same schedule. I find it more difficult with each book. How about you?
Yeah, I do as well. I think with that for me actually. So the first one was a 1-book contract. So when I wrote that book, and then I really felt like I was learning with that book. That book isn't perfect. You know, it's got lots of things that I would change now if I was going to write it again. That very first one, The Sisters. But when I wrote Local Girl Missing, I wrote that out of contract, and that was lovely because it was just I remember writing it thinking, who knows if I'm ever going to get another book published, but I'm just going to write this book. Like, I'm just going to write this book that I just want to write. And I think that was my favorite book, just because I love the writing process, because I didn't have any pressure. I think it gets more pressure, doesn't it, when you've got a contract?
I think contracts and deadlines do make it harder, absolutely. And producing a book a year, which we both try to do, is also a definite challenge. So I wanted to just touch back on Then She Vanishes a little bit, and just talk about the character of Margot just briefly. She is my favorite character in the novel. She occupies a bit of a different place. She's a different generation from one of the other narrators. She's complex. I found her relatable as a mother. And I just wanted to ask you, you know, how you developed her and what a role she plays in the book for you. You know, what was the attraction of writing about, you know, writing from her point of view and telling the story from her particular point of view?
I think I wanted to write like a mother figure, because I am a mum myself, and a lot of the characters I write about are younger than me, and a lot of them haven't got children. So it's quite nice to write someone who has got children. And even though Margot's older than me and she's got grown-up children, I just sort of imagined how I would feel if I was her, this woman who's already lost one daughter, and then another one is, you know, has committed this crime, and she loves her children. She's a grandmother as well. She's got a little grandson, and I really enjoyed writing her. I really and also because Margot's what I quite liked about her, she's very different to me. She's quite sort of, you know, firm, and it was quite fun writing someone quite, you know, caustic and a bit, you know, matter of fact, you know. It was fun writing her, because she's like the opposite to me, I think, in that way. She says what she thinks. She doesn't take any nonsense. You know, I quite enjoyed writing her for those reasons.
She's brilliant to read, and I highly recommend. I mean, it's one of the reasons I highly recommend this book to readers. I really related to her as well. I think she was an absolutely fantastic character. And so, thinking about motherhood and how we fit our writing lives around our home. What's your writing day look like? You know, what time do you sit down to work, and where do you sit down? And has it always been like that?
Well, I think with the first one, the sisters, my son was only 2, so he was only at nursery like a few days a week, well, not even a whole day, like I think a couple of hours. So that was really hard. I wrote that one mostly in the evenings. But then now that both my children are at school, I do it. I try to work like 9 to about 2 every day, and that's lovely, because I go to school, I get home, put the dishwasher on, sort the kitchen out, then come upstairs into my little office, and then just get on with it. And try not to look at Twitter and Instagram, but obviously that's really hard, isn't it? So distracting. But most of the time I can just but now with this, I know, I'm just like, just have a quick look on Twitter while I'm trying to write my book. But so what I've actually done, this is another author gave me this idea, is she's got this little clock, and she said just put it on for like 30 minutes, and then just write for those 30 minutes, and just don't get distracted. And so I've done, and it's actually works quite well. So you think to yourself, I've only got 30 really minutes, but so really it's just a little clock that I bought, like a little timer, and it just helps me sometimes, especially like in the holidays now, because the kids are off school. I just think, I've only got like a little bit of time. I'm just going to write as much as I can for 30 minutes. It might be rubbish, but it doesn't matter. Just write that, which is quite hard for me, because I'm not very good at doing that. But actually, at the moment, it's really helping, because with the summer holidays and the kids being around all the time, Jilly's gone again. Gilly? Hello? Gilly's gone completely. This is hello. Gilly's gone again.
She froze up a bit.
I know. Poor Gilly. She's in Devon at the moment, so I think the Wi-Fi there is a bit iffy.
Can you hear me, guys? I can hear you.
Oh guys. Yeah, I can hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can hear you and see you. I don't know if
can you? I can't see you, but I can hear you. You'll probably pop back on in a minute.
Hopefully I will. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, don't worry.
Location.
Oh, I know. You're on holiday as well. Yeah.
Can you see me?
No, but don't worry. I can hear you.
I'm coming to my last question. One of my last questions, which was, can you share what North American readers can expect from you next?
Well, my next
After
book
Then
is
She Vanishes.
Oh yeah, my next book is coming out in January, actually, so quite soon. It's called Just Like the Other Girls, and that's the one where I got the idea from the Craigslist murders, where the guy he'd put an advert in the paper to look for a particular type of men to work on his ranch, and then he killed them allegedly. I don't know if it's actually. I think he actually is in prison for anyway. So. And so even though my book's not about that, it's about this advert that goes in the paper looking for a particular type of girl to go and work at this house in Bristol for this rich old lady. So again, I got that idea from a newspaper article. So that's coming out in January. So
and I have that one, and I also highly recommend it.
Oh, thank you. Oh.
Okay, I can see Gilly, but you can't. Claire.
Oh no, I can now. She's popped back up now. Yes, yes.
Fabulous. Okay.
Thanks, Gilly.
Well, I wanted to remind everyone watching, if you have a question for the authors, click on Ask a Question on your screen, and you can type in your question there. In the meantime, I have a few questions for you. So Claire, you did talk a little bit about when you first knew that you wanted to be a writer, you were a writer. Gilly, I'm wondering when that was for you. When did you know that you were meant to be a writer?
I'm not sure I had the same kind of certainty. I've always been an obsessive reader. That was what defined me since the moment I could read. That's all I wanted to do. And my favorite places were libraries and bookshops when I was a kid. But I didn't write for my career. I did other things. And it wasn't until I had a moment where I had my youngest child had started school and I needed to get a job. But I thought, if I could just squeeze out 6 months of time for myself, I wanted to suddenly see if I could write a book. And I'd always enjoyed writing and been quite good at it at university and stuff. But so I wrote 1,000 words a day until I had a book. It was terrible. But I worked on the beginning and then worked with an agent, and then that's the book that became What She Knew. So it was really something that came to me quite late in life. It hadn't been a burning passion, but I guess the love of books had always been there.
And this question is for both of you, and Claire, I'll have you answer this first. You know, when you're writing a book, there's always rounds of edits you have to go through. Is there anything in this new book, Claire, and then Gilly next, and your most recent book, that it just killed you to have to edit out of it?
In the book that I've just written, there's quite a lot of I had an editor that's basically like, right, you don't need this, you don't need this. So I had quite a lot of, I suppose say waffle. That's probably the way. And she was like, you don't need. So lots of things that I thought, this is lovely. I'll write this lovely passage. And she's like, nah, you don't need that. It's not moving the story on. Just get rid of it. And I was like, but I did, because obviously the moving the story on is really important. But I was a bit like, but I took ages on that paragraph.
And how about you, Gilly?
I'm pretty calm about editing. There's not much that I mind being cut. I get a bit more grumpy about things being added in. If they say, maybe we could add this in or that in, and then I feel a little bit more grumpy. So I'm kind of the opposite.
My next question is, have either of you ever gone on a literary pilgrimage? Have you ever visited a favorite writer's pub or home or gravesite, anything like that?
Only, I suppose Anne Frank, but I don't know if that's Anne Frank. I did. I went to Amsterdam to see where she lived. I'd love to go to Agatha Christie's house. I've not been there. Have you, Gilly?
No, I have been up.
Yeah.
I've been up to the Bronte's house up in
Yorkshire. I have actually. Yeah.
I hope I'm answering the right question here, but yeah, that is an amazing place up in the moors.
Yeah.
And you just felt so connected to their books there. It was quite an extraordinary thing
Yeah.
to do. And of course, Claire
Yeah.
lives in Bath, Jane Austen land. So,
Oh,
it's
yes.
kind of on your
Yes.
doorstep, isn't
Yes.
it?
Oh, yeah. That's true. And I have been to a house. I did go to that Jane Austen museum. I have been there, actually. I always forget. Yeah, I have. Yeah. But I also went to the Bronte house as well. That was amazing. Oh, and also Beatrix Potter's house. Yeah. For the Lake District. That was lovely. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Oh my goodness. Okay. Also, I'm wondering, I know that you both had other careers. Is that right? Before you became full-time writers, was there any time where either of you were writing part-time until you transitioned into this being your full-time gig?
I think when I started writing, I was on maternity leave with my son. So yeah, so I wasn't actually. No, I wasn't. What about you, Gilly? Were you?
I was raising my kids, so it was like full-time housewife with all that involved. But I didn't have a professional job, so yeah, I was fitting it around life.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit of a silly question, but it can be fun. As a writer, what would you choose as your mascot, avatar, or spirit animal if you had to choose?
I'd choose a cat. A cat or horse. I love cats. Cats, I think. A cat.
I have two cats.
I think my fantasy avatar would be a big cat, like a Black Panther, but in reality, it's probably a Labrador because that's the animal sleeping under my desk.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. My last question for you both is, what is your writing kryptonite? Some have writer's block. What is it for you?
I think mine's probably distraction, just being distracted by anything. I can be distracted so easily by just thinking, oh, I just need to quickly look on Twitter, or let me just see what's going on Facebook, or what's going on in the news. Like I find it quite hard sometimes to really just focus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, mine has to be confidence. It's just keeping your confidence, holding your nerve, because you make a million tiny, big and small decisions when you write. What character do I choose, or what word do I use in this sentence? Everything's decision, and I think sometimes your confidence can flag. So for me, it's really holding my nerve and keeping that going.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we did not receive questions from the audience, which is fine. I would like to remind everyone, if they would like to purchase the book, you can click the button on your screen that says buy the book, or click the link in the live chat, and that'll take you to our website where you can purchase the book. I'd like to thank you both so much for being here. It's a little late for you over where you're at, but I appreciate you hopping on with us tonight. I loved your conversation, and I look forward to reading the book. I need a good.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thanks for having us. And thanks, Gilly, because I know you're on a holiday as well. So thank you for.
Thank you for having us as well.
Oh, of course.
Thank you.
Anytime. If you ever find yourself in the States, please.
Oh, yes, I'd love to.
Stop by. Thank you so much again. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you.